The Lift & Co. Cannabis Expo returns to the Metro Toronto Convention Centre, November 18th to the 21st. Discover and learn about all things cannabis. Get your tickets at liftexpo.ca. Must be 19 plus to enter and attend.
Going and maybe 3 steps forward the next time, that's all that matters to me. And it's literally something that I think if you've never gone through, you might not understand, but if you have kids and you've ever got to see them do that milestone, just know when you have a special needs kid, it's intensified by like 1,000,000 times because we're told that that's never going to happen for us. So when we get it and we get to watch something that everybody gets to do in everyday life, it's just huge. So that's our story.
Welcome to the Miracle Plant Podcast, the show that inspires, promotes, and gives you a daily dose of inspiration from the people who have used cannabis to change their lives in extraordinary ways. Here's your host, Justin Benton.
Welcome to the Miracle Plant Podcast, where we discuss this miracle plant with so many names and how it changes people's lives in so many extraordinary ways. Today we have a very special announcement. We are announcing that we are going to be hosting a daily show covering cannabis and hemp news every morning, daily at 8:40 Pacific time out here on Clubhouse. So be sure to hear all the latest news and updates about this miracle plant, cannabis and hemp and CBD and all the other names that they have for it. We're going to be making sure to keep you up to speed on the most up-to-date news that is breaking every single day, along with sharing at least one miracle story, how this miracle plant has changed someone's lives in extraordinary ways. Today, we're having our podcast on Clubhouse to discuss some miracle stories. We have some people that are, you just have to hear to believe. And we also have, one of our returning guests who we're so happy to have back with us, kristin-selby-gonzalas, my mom, Janet Benton Gaillard, Dan Humiston, the producer and creator of the Miracle Plant Show and the podcast platform PodCONX. So welcome everybody to the Miracle Plant Podcast. And exciting news. We're going to have a daily show every day talking about cannabis and hemp and miracle stories. How exciting is that?
There are certainly enough stories you could do it every day.
Yeah, I love the 840, 420 times 2. I think that's a classic.
Yeah, you got to work in 420 whenever you can. That's for darn sure. So I wanted to get started with, I'll start with a quick story. Then Kristin, I wanted to have you share a story. We just got back on an RV camping trip and it was great. And we went up and down the coast of the 101, up and down the 101 highway. Imagine that, 101 CBD, 101 highway. And we had an opportunity to, one of the campsites we stopped at had a big park in the backyard. And when my, son was 2.5, we would play, a little t-ball in the backyard and a little soft toss. And my first love was baseball. And so it was kind of something easy for me to pass along. It's kind of a piece of Americana, playing catch with your old man. And so we were doing that. And then obviously my son suffered a regressive autism diagnosis where he lost language. He lost his ability to communicate and make eye contact, certainly play sports, and kind of basically went into some type of coma, if you will. And so, over the past 7 years, we've been doing everything we can. And of course, that's how we found the miracle plant and the power of juicing and raw whole plant, cannabis, hemp, and, the main ingredient being the CBDA, the raw version of CBD that was the missing link to help his brain regenerate and clear the fog and detoxify all of the pesticides and all of the heavy metals and all of the pollutants that we live with in this world. So full circle, we're playing, he looks to me and he went to a YMCA baseball camp. And so I got him some baseballs and, we already had gloves, and he had a great time at camp. And one of the instructors are like, your son's never played baseball before? That's crazy. He's got to play. Because he had some really big hits and stuff. And so we were on the RV trip and I brought the ball and bag and all that stuff, and just in case. And besides, like, hey, do you want to go hit some balls? And he's like, yeah. And he loves to count how many he hits. And so he's going to be a great statistician. I can teach him how to keep score in baseball. And so it was just one of those moments. And I told my wife, Molly, to get the video camera out because, she's got a video of me throwing baseballs to him, which is pretty cool to think about coming 7 years later that, we totally have come full circle. So again, it's an amazing, it truly was the answer to our prayers. It was the only thing that I cared about in my life was to get my son healthy again. And the power of this plant is what did it. We did all the other things with great diet, clean diet, organic diet, juicing, probiotics, all the things that really matter when it comes to getting your health and your gut microbiome and your immune system all down there working and healthy and holistically and getting rid of the processed foods and the cheese and the gluten and all the shit that we eat. And we made success and progress with diet and nutrition alone. But it was the raw juicing. It was the raw cannabis, the raw, cold, extracted, whole plant, 500 parts of the plant that truly was the thing that allowed his brain to detoxify, to reduce inflammation, to get, to regenerate nerves back to the DNA, homeostasis. And so just an incredible, powerful story for us. Not to mention, on top of it, he had surf camp 2 weeks ago, and he actually got to surf and stand up on a surfboard for the first time. And, we just couldn't be happier with the progress. And that's why we have the Miracle Plant podcast, so we can share his story, share what worked for us, share the insights that we've traveled the world working with the leaders and experts like the Dr. Raphael Nashulans, and the Dr. William Courtneys, and the Dr. Ethan Russos, and the Dr. Fries, and everyone else that's out there that is a leading cannabis researcher and person, and doing our own research and having our own studies and working with our own clients to really unlock the full potential of this plant, which we know we have by, it's the simplest thing, plants and vegetables are meant to be eaten. And that's what cannabis needs to be done as well if you want to really get everything that this plant has to offer. So that's my miracle plant story for today. And Kristin, I'd love for you to share yours because your son has come so far. And it's just incredible that all the exciting things that's going on in your son's life.
Well, I love hearing about your journey and how this all started, and it always warms and inspires my heart. So thank you for sharing that, and I just loved hearing it. Congratulations to you guys. So I'm excited to share what's going on with Jax. That's my son. He is 19 years old, and a couple years ago, he was just really going through some crazy stuff, lots of aggression, and we'd probably gone through aggression for 2 years even prior to that, with puberty-induced seizures and just a whole bunch of other fun labels on top of autism. And so we found you guys, and here we are. So I'm so excited. So we got to do our play date on this last Wednesday. That was the first time we ever had an official play date in our backyard, in our pool with another kid other than a therapist. And my girlfriend and I've known her for, I guess 17 years. Her son is 12, and we had wanted our kids to get together, but Jackson was never at that moment where we could, and never at the right time. And I knew everything would be great. And they played in the pool. They had a fabulous time. And I just, I stood behind, like, kind of where they could just kind of do their thing, and tried not to cry. It was just so amazing to get to watch, and something we wanted for so long. And they'll be coming back this Wednesday to do another play date, which is great. And then on Sunday, this coming Sunday, we're getting ready to go back to Arizona to horse camp. We try to go every 2 months for just a couple of days. Again, something we've never even thought we could do when we were going through the dark days of aggression and scariness. And if you're out there and you have a kid with autism, and especially if you have a kid hitting puberty, a lot of us go through this with aggression, just know you're not alone. And, when I found you guys, and when you guys found us, and like I work at the Autism Hope Alliance, but you guys found us. And then, I don't know why it took so long for me to realize, like, this is really the miracle plant. This is the real deal. I'd heard the stories, but I kind of just thought all CBD was created equal, and it just isn't. And I'm just so grateful. I'm so grateful to get to see my kid thrive. Like I said, he's 19. Before seizures, he was closer to about a 5th grade level. Right now, when we started with CBD, he was probably kindergarten, 1st grade level, and now we're finally seeing him get to like more of a 2nd, 3rd grade level right now. And so we're definitely climbing that ladder back up. And really, that's what it's about, just putting one foot in front of the other. Sometimes you take 2 steps back, but as long as you can keep going and maybe 3 steps forward the next time, that's all that matters to me. And it's literally something that I think if you've never gone through, you might not understand. But if you have kids and you've ever got to see them do that milestone, just know when you have a special needs kid, it's intensified by like a million times because we're told that that's never going to happen for us. So when we get it and we get to watch something that everybody gets to do in everyday life, it's just huge. So that's our story.
This is the sound cannabis companies hear when they try to place an ad on Facebook, Twitter, or Google. The tech overlords' arbitrary discrimination against our industry is unfair. But until they change their restraint of trade policies, we need an alternative way to share our message with our customers. Cannabis podcasts are one of the last advertising platforms not controlled by tech monopolies. And for as low as $9.99 a week, cannabis companies have the freedom to play their uncensored commercials to customers around the world. Don't let tech bosses dictate how you run your business. Go to PodCONX.com. That's PodCONX.com. And for just $9.99 per week, you can go from this to this.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it's, when you have, a child that has a severe diagnosis and, they get behind on their milestones and when every milestone is like a birthday party, like you're saying, and you really appreciate them, every time you get one of those. And, I think, obviously a lot of other, parents who don't have kids on the spectrum or don't have severe diagnosis, it is what it is. And it's like, oh, great, they had a play date or whatever it is. And, oh, they're playing catch in the backyard. And it is what it is. Like, they don't know any different. And that's wonderful not to know any different, that you're just living your life. And I think even, because I have other children that are neurotypical and weren't injured. And, and we still track their progress and things like that. And they have good days and bad days and all that good stuff. But, and maybe, some parents listening to, these stories, and it'll give them a little perspective on maybe, a little more gratitude or appreciation for having, just at the end of the day, if you don't have your health, then what do you really have? I mean, whether it's for yourself or for your family or your children. So thank you so much for sharing that. And it's, your son has definitely been a beacon of light to see how far he's come in the last few years. And it's just so awesome to hear those updates. And thank you for sharing that. Janet, do you have anything to add?
Well, of course. Thank you for asking. And I always want to clarify, too, that the big change comes from the CBDA, which is the raw form the plant makes. And the majority of companies still heat or decarboxylate into CBD. And then the CBDA is just so much more powerful because it literally goes to every cell in our body. It literally balances all the systems in our body. It literally is an anti-inflammatory, antioxidant. It literally can provide balance throughout our system. But to me, the most fabulous property that it has related to especially autism or Alzheimer's or any kind of seizures, any kind of brain disorder, is it can protect nerves from damage, it can repair nerves, and it can regenerate nerves. And the fact that it can regenerate damaged nerves is just amazing. And we saw that with Justin's son. So he was a bright little guy, reading already at age 2 before his massive, very quick regression, where his IQ then was too low to measure, and again, to had lost all speech. And now to see that after he had been on the CBDA for a while, and we actually discovered that because being holistic, it had to be raw, whole plant, and organic. And so that led us to the CBDA. But just seeing he could, at some point after he'd been taking it for a while, he literally was able to access his memories from before the regression. And that just was very chilling awareness that truly showed that his own brain had, regrown. The nerves had been recovered. And that to me was just the hugest testimony that literally the CBDA can repair and change brain damage or neurological disorder or whatever you want to call it. And so we see that across a wide variety of things, including like Alzheimer's and MS and Parkinson's and ADHD. And so every day we all just feel honored to be able to have this plant in our lives and to spread it to the world. So again, too, if you're looking for the absolute best solution in the whole world of cannabis, the raw hemp CBDA just has the data and the research behind it, and our everyday experiences, like these two stories you just heard now, our everyday experiences lead us every day to reaffirm that the raw whole plant CBDA is the answer that we've all been looking for.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for that. And speaking of research and science, it was recently Dr. Raphael Mishulam's 90th birthday, and he was the man who basically was able to first identify and illustrate the individual compounds in science in 1963 and 1964 of CBD and other cannabinoids within the plant. And so we call him the godfather of CBDA. And the reason why is he came out in 2019 to CanMed, which is an incredible conference put on. It's cannabis and medical communities, researchers, doctors, just cutting edge, pioneers in the industry. And Dr. Raphael Mishulam was the keynote speaker. And so he came out and he was the first speaker on the first day at 8 a.m. And our whole team was there, and we reserved the whole front row, and we were like spreading we were like all going to be right there right when he came out. It was such a big deal for us and so many others. It was a packed auditorium, and he came out on stage, and there was just a roaring, standing ovation. It was like the Beatles coming out, at Ed Sullivan's show. It was just incredible because so many of us, our lives have been so impacted by this plant, and his research is what truly led the way. He was the leader in research and showing the chemical compounds like CBD in the plant. And so his keynote featured the fact that there was recent research that had come out on the acidic precursors of the cannabinoids like CBDA. And in his research, he showed that CBDA is scientifically proven to be 1,000 times stronger than your typical isolated pharmaceutical CBD, if you will. Just one compound CBD, 1,000 times stronger. And specifically for this research they were working on, it was for nausea and for anxiety. So when you hear these stories, the stories are beautiful and wonderful, and we're those of us that are a part of the stories, our lives are forever changed. But some people, they're persuaded or they're moved by emotion, and some people are persuaded and moved by logic. So on both sides of the fence, it is 1,000% clear that this plant, whether it be by stories that you hear that you connect with, or whether it be by the raw data, research, double-blind, placebo, whatever, systematic research, scientific method, this plant is without a doubt passes with flying colors in both realms. So with that, I definitely wanted to share. And I also wanted to give a pat on the back, or just I'm glad you're feeling better, Dan, because I know Dan, we usually go on Saturdays, but I know that he had some things to deal with, and he had a natural disaster, and fortunately, it sounds like Dan's going to be okay. And so he was able to, I think he was working out of a fire station this morning to get all the buttons plugged in and to get us to go live, because come hell or high water, Dan is the man, and he's got us going live on the podcast. So Dan, I'm so glad that you're here, you're safe, and it sounds like things are back on pace for you to get back to normal life, which I'm sure you're looking forward to.
Yeah, it wasn't as much hell as it was high water this time, but thank you guys, and I appreciate, again, I look forward to this call every week, and Saturday mornings at 10 Pacific time is our normal time, and it's always inspiring. So happy to be here, and I'm sorry that I wasn't here on Saturday.
Well, you didn't even need a doctor's note on that one. That's totally understandable, and I'm happy that I was just so happy that you're safe, because that certainly looked pretty scary. Some of the videos I saw on social media. So glad to have you here again. The big announcement for this podcast that'll be coming out Tuesday night and Wednesday is that tune in at 8:40 a.m. Pacific time on Clubhouse, and you can hear the latest news in cannabis and hemp, and hear more miracle stories every single day. We'll have guests up and ask questions if we have time. It's only going to be for 20 minutes. If you don't have a way to get on Clubhouse, I have 1,000 invites that I can give out. So just hit me up. You can hit me up at J Benton, BENTON, at 101cbd.org, and just say you want a link to get onto the Clubhouse, and we can instantly get you approved, and you'll be right into the show, and you can listen in and hear the latest hemp news, cannabis news, CBD news, internationally, domestic. It's going to be hard to cram it all into 20 minutes every morning, but we want to continue to bring the latest research, the latest news. There's so much confusion about this plant, and we just want to do our part to educate people and continue telling these miracle stories, because there's just so many of them. If you go back and listen to our podcast episodes, you'll see and hear so many beautiful stories that you literally have to hear to believe. So any final comments or questions from the audience? Feel free to raise your hand and come on up. Any final comments from our panelists today?
No, I'm just always, again, too, I can never repeat enough how important it is for us to get our stories out and our research out. And you can always look on our website, 101cbd.org, for more information in this area. And you can also track me down via my Instagram on my Clubhouse description. I actually do live Zoom consultations with people for free at any point if you have any questions you want to follow up with.
Absolutely. And you can go to 101cbd.org, and on the top there's a button that says free consultation, and that'll send you up to a calendar that you can go ahead and get your appointment set up with Janet Benton Gaillard, who's been doing a lot of amazing work and helping people understand this plant, understand holistic integrative nutrition and healing, and the things that she's seen work over for many decades of being a healer. So do make sure and take advantage of that. Her calendar is pretty full these days, but there is still some room. You might just have to wait a couple weeks to get on there, but we do appreciate that. So with that, anything else before we wrap up? Kristin or Dan, or any questions in the audience?
I was just going to say, anybody listening, if you're feeling helpless or hopeless, or you're thinking, gosh, I've tried CBD or I've heard about it, but I'm still kind of confused. Honestly, like I was sitting there right with you guys and thinking I knew what I was taking or, giving my son, and this miracle plant from, that I learned about from Justin, it literally changed our lives. It's not one of those things you think, is that really true what I'm hearing? Or you see one of those stories, like, we're living it. It's absolutely true. So don't give up. And there's definitely help and hope out there. Beautiful.
Beautiful. Yeah. And if anyone does want to try a free sample, you can go to the website, www.freechillcbd.com, and you just can fill out your information. You just have to pay for postage, and we'll send you a free product to try for yourself. So with that, we end every one of our meetings and every one of our podcasts and every one of our soon-to-be brand new daily news show on cannabis and hemp, found here on Clubhouse at 8:40 a.m. Pacific. We end it by saying heal the world, because that is our mission, is to pay it forward for what this miracle plant has done for our family and help other families like Kristin's and other families out there who are desperate, who have no hope or little hope, that there is another way. There is one thing that we all should be trying, which is trying this miracle plant, because it helps balance our bodies and find homeostasis, and the endocannabinoid system regulates all systems in the body. So whatever the issue is, this miracle plant will help, because the endocannabinoid system regulates all other systems. And in fact, Dr. Ethan Russo, who will be the keynote speaker at CanMed 2021 here coming up in September in Pasadena. He actually was able to make the term and prove that there's a this particular name is called the endocannabinoid deficiency syndrome. And basically his research proved that whatever the ailment is, whatever the issue is, it can be supported and helped with a fully supplemented endocannabinoid system. And how you supplement your endocannabinoid system, which every human has and every mammal has, is by giving it more cannabinoids, whether it comes from plants or whether it comes from our own bodies that make cannabinoids, endocannabinoids. And so it is truly, like I said, whether emotionally you connect to the stories or logically you connect to the science, it is proven beyond a shadow of a doubt that this miracle plant is healing people, is helping their own bodies heal themselves, and that's our mission to pay it forward. So on the count of 3, we say heal the world, because we want everyone to hear these stories, to try these products, and incorporate this miracle plant into their daily regimen. So on the count of 3, unmute your mics, and let's say heal the world. 1, 2, 3.
Heal the
world!
All right, everybody. Thanks for coming to the Miracle Plant Podcast. Please review, please share, please come in and tune in next Saturday at 10 a.m. on Clubhouse, or if you want to hear the latest and greatest in the hemp and cannabis, be there on Clubhouse at 8:40 a.m. Pacific for 20 minutes. We'll tell you everything that's going on. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.